to all of you, and welcome to this evening's segment. Today is November the 12th, and of course, we are again bringing you some breaking news this evening. Unfortunately, there is now a family here in the Cayman Islands who is going to be mourning the loss of another young life, and this breaks our heart. We understand that young man has been gunned down in the district of West Bay. So at this time, Cayman is such an incredibly small place. Within minutes of us receiving the information that there was a shooting, we had confirmation of who he was, his name, his parents' name, photos, everything. But contrary to what a lot of people believe, we don't actually put the information up the second that we get it. We wait, and of course, Cayman being what it is, it's not going to take long before a lot of people have access to this information. We've received it numerous times, so we know who he is. We understand that his dad is not currently in the Cayman Islands, so we don't want to yet put that on social media. But we do want to extend our condolences to his family. It's quite unfortunate because, it's just really, really sad that that this is the case. So again, we have a good following on Facebook. We have over 160 people tuned in. Instagram has 144. I think we may have to mute the Instagram comments because you guys are just so incredibly negative all the time. Like, grow up, Instagram people. It's not about getting the most likes, and it's not about trying to be funny. Nobody cares what you think, honestly, about how I look. That's good. I got a husband. I got a man. I'm not worried about you guys in any way, shape, or form. That has never been an issue for me. And your commentary on how I look doesn't really impact me. I'm not 12 years old, and I'm not even 15 years old. So what's the old saying about sticks and stones? Well, I've had 40 plus years on this earth, and so I've been able to develop a very thick skin. But it's really distracting because on this program we're trying to talk about really important issues, and unfortunately the IG crowd is just like focusing on the stuff that really is important. How somebody looks, whether you like it or not, doesn't really matter. Let's talk about what's happening in our community. Let's talk about the fact that we have lost another young man to gun violence. And a lot of you young people who are on the Instagram platform in that crowd are very much aware of the dangers of gun violence, the dangers that are being faced by young men in our communities. And, that's a sad thing for me. For any life to be lost, I don't care who that person is. A lot of our young men have had their struggles, they've had their issues, they've been mixed up in all sorts of stuff. But at the end of the day, every single life lost, that person has a loved one. They've got parents, they've got siblings, they've got cousins. And the nature of this game is that somebody takes a life. And I understand that the streets are talking, that unfortunately, he was shot multiple times, like multiple times. And as a result of that, this looks like, this was a hit, obviously, of some sort. And so now there's going to be a tit for tat. There's going to be retaliation. And this community, how many of our young men are we going to lose to gun violence is the question that I have. That's what saddens me when I think about a situation like this. Because someone took his life, and whoever took his life, now, the response will be what? That their life is going to be in danger, that their loved ones' lives are going to be in danger in order to send a message. And so this tit for tat can only end up two ways. The person who's playing tit for tat, they either get, in the end, a little tit or a tat, or they end up in jail. There's no other way that this ever ends. There's no way to peacefully walk away from certain situations. So it's unfortunate, and it's really quite sad, to be honest. Breaks my heart. But that's again breaking news out of West Bay. There has been a deadly shooting this evening. And again, our condolences to the family of that young man. We understand he's only about 25 years old. Hasn't even been able to start his life really good yet. So that's quite sad. Maureen, thank you so much. Maureen is joining us from New Jersey this evening. Charlene, Carmely, Leslie, Valden from Cayman Brac, of course. Tamara, good night to you. Nathan Shara is joining the program. Irvelyn, as always, is always here. Deleith Martin, good evening to you too. Keisha's here. And there's a whole slew of more of you who are actually not commenting that I know are watching the program tonight. So the first topic that I wanted to spend some time with is, I think it was yesterday morning, we posted a story about a young man who is incarcerated now for, I believe it's 7.5 years. Let me just pull up the story here. In the in the UK, for rape and sexual assault of a child under the age of 13. And he's being told, or he's being coined, the pedophile pilot. And a lot of you guys will know him. His proper name is Tevin McLeod. He's only 28 years old. He goes by the name of Springy. And he has been arrested, jailed for raping a child in Birmingham in the UK. Now, this happened in September. He was arrested in September as he landed at the Manchester airport. He was charged the following day with rape and sexual assault of a child under the age of 13. And initially, he attempted to deny the allegations. But of course, in this day and age, you better be careful what you're denying because there's so much evidence out there. And so the police had their case together and they had the evidence of him trying to coerce the young lady on messenger platforms to not tell the authorities, to not tell the police. And let's keep in mind that this assault, the dates are between 2015 and 2016. We don't know exactly how many times this young man may have sexually assaulted or raped this young girl. It could have been numerous times in that space of 2015, 2016. We don't exactly have all of the details of that part of it, but we do know that this wasn't a one-off incident, that this young man raped her and sexually assaulted her on more than one occasion. And in fact, in my mind, it has to be more than 2 occasions when you look at the actual charges. So unfortunately, it's a horrible situation that anybody should be accused of this, found guilty, admitted their guilt, as with this young man. He actually eventually admitted his guilt, and now he is he's going to be in jail. He's been sentenced to 7.5 years. After that time, they will probably deport him from the UK if they recognize that he's a foreign national. And this story, it was quite interesting, but it was covered by so much media across the UK. Internationally, it was Yahoo News, the Independent News, the Mirror. I mean, you Google his name and you get an understanding of how incredibly large the story was and how many persons were republishing this off of the AP wire, so to speak. So we got information from one of our UK contacts about the story. Naturally, this young man is a Caymanian, whether by birth or a piece of paper. Legally, it doesn't matter. If he's gotten a piece of paper, he's one of us, and this makes us look bad. He grew up here. I understand he may have even been born in the Cayman Islands, and a lot of you remember him from school, from high school, all that sort of stuff. And it's so incredibly sad that there are people out there who are trying to, and it's not a whole lot of people, don't get me wrong. I mean, I think a lot of people are more shocked than anything else, but there were actually people out there who were trying to defend him because I guess he's family. So, we saw the message that was directed at us. Oh, we don't know what we're talking about. Mall Road is trying to somehow tarnish this young man's name. And we don't even know him to want to tarnish his name. I can assure you, nothing is farther from the truth. We have no stake in this game where it gets us any brownie points to try to make a young Caymanian look bad, and especially one who has, by all accounts, worked very hard to become a pilot, who was working at Costulas, trying to earn money, trying to do all this stuff to, try to elevate himself. We heard that he had a hard time in school, that he was picked on a lot, he was a little bit on the nerdy side. A lot of us have been there. Some of you may even be going through this at the moment, where you are part of that crowd that, you're not in the popular group, and you're not gonna, do all the popular stuff to really get liked. You might be on the fringes of that, and that's okay. That doesn't make or break who you are, because trust me, time is the ultimate equalizer in this world. And a lot of people who were picked on in school and who were less than popular have gone on to own some of the largest companies in the world, and they're billionaires, and they're sitting back laughing at the fools who had the time to sit down and make fun of them, and whatever platform or whatever. It just didn't work. It didn't stop their focus, and it didn't stop their game. It didn't impact their intelligence or their ability to really get out there and do what they needed to do. So it was really sad to hear that this young man had such big dreams, and at the end of the day, he has made some decisions now that has not only directly impacted his own life, but has also impacted the life, more importantly in my opinion, of a young child who will be irreparably damaged and changed forever. You can't undo a sexual assault. You cannot undo, a rape of a child. You can't erase those memories. That individual will have to deal with that situation for the rest of their lives. And hopefully this young lady is able to get some serious counseling. She'll never get over this. She will probably be afraid of men for the rest of her life. She will have trust issues. She will never trust anyone again. I don't know how he had access to her. We, obviously don't want to give out too much information because it's important to protect the child. But the bottom line is he had access on more than one occasion, and he took advantage of that young lady as a result, which I think is incredibly sad. Having said that, I want to share with you guys the conversation. So one of the people, again, who was obviously upset that the story made the local news, and keep this in mind, this was the sort of thing that was all over the news. We were not doing anything incredibly unique, but here he is, Springer345, I guess is his IG name, and they actually sent this photo of him, and it looks like probably his mom, and I don't know if that's his sister, but the comment says, I'm just going to pull it up on my phone so I can see it a little bit better. This person sends this photo and says, "This looks like a rapist." So I want to ask you guys, what does a rapist look like? We have seen rapists that have been millionaires, billionaires. Just a couple months ago, that billionaire in the States, I forget his name now, you guys can help me out here. He's allegedly committed suicide in his prison cell after abusing young children and raping young children for God knows how long. And so what does a rapist look like? What does a child molester look like? It would be so easy if they walked around with a label that said, "I'm a child molester." All of us would be in a better position because we could then try to protect our children. That's not what it is. So here we have this picture asking, oh, what does a rapist look like? And the person essentially responded. They even sent a picture of him quoting the Bible and saying, he's a good person. He's a Christian. He's a Seventh-day Adventist. And I'm thinking, wow, we have so much farther to go. If we think because someone quotes the Bible or that someone jumps up every single time the church doors are open and goes to church, that somehow makes them a good person, or that somehow makes them incapable of molesting children. Like, seriously? There have been mass murderers who go to church, pastors who are in the pulpit every single week preaching the word of God, who will turn around and rape you the first chance they get, and who will turn around and molest your children. So just because someone goes to church doesn't make it, doesn't make them a good person. You can't say what a rapist look like, or a child molester. That could be anyone, and we have proven time and time again. This is why, if you have children, trust me, protect your children at all costs, because a rapist could be anybody in your family, your uncles, your aunts. Women can sexually molest and rape children as well. Your grandfather, they can be older people. We've had cases of people here in their 80s being convicted of molesting young children, 8, 9 years old, and sometimes even younger. So this concept that someone looks a certain way or they play a certain role and somehow that makes them a rapist or not is a really flawed concept. So here we have a conversation where this person responded, no one looks like a rapist, but when it's posted in national news and he's admitted to it, and this is the thing that I don't get, this dude actually admitted in the end that he had carried out these assaults against this young child. And again, we know that the child is under 13, but we don't know how much younger. The child could be, because under 13 is like a threshold for the level of offense. The child could be 8, the child could be 5, the child could be 10. We're not privy to those details. We only know that the child is under the age of 13, which that much is specified because that makes it a more serious offense according to the law. So sometimes there are levels of offenses depending on the age of the victim and certain other factors that may be taken into consideration. And that's why the court and the police have divulged that much information in terms of the victim, to let people know this wasn't a 15-year-old, this wasn't a 16-year-old, this wasn't a child that was 17, maybe barely legal. This child was under the age of 13. And that takes any kind of sexual assault or rapist is horrible, but the younger someone goes with their victim, in my mind, does make them a little bit more evil, because they have no compassion for their victims whatsoever. In my mind, the age never matters. But I mean, the younger it is, you really have to wonder, what kind of heart does someone like this have? So he admitted to it. There are people who grew up with him who were very shocked and surprised by the allegations and by the situation. And unfortunately, this kind of thinking, this kind of dialogue that a rapist looks like a certain thing is really, really flawed. So, this person is doing their best to try to say that he doesn't look like a rapist. Unfortunately, he's admitted to it, and that doesn't quite fly, because the only reason why he admitted to it is because of the evidence that was presented to him. In his own words, where he was more concerned, not even about the victim and what he had done to her. So he wasn't even attempting to apologize to her, to say, I'm sorry for ruining your life. I'm sorry for doing this to you. His concern was his reputation. Oh, this is going to make me look bad. This is going to make family members, like the same person trying to defend him, look bad. And I'm going to lose my pilot's license. I'm going to go to jail. So again, we see the narcissistic behavior that is happening here, and the type of person that we're really truly dealing with, Tevin McLeod, more concerned about himself than he was about his own victim. And that speaks volumes. Those messages spoke volumes. And what I think is also very, very important is what the detective said, the detective constable who was in charge of the case. They essentially said, listen, there is no doubt in their mind that he would have continued offending if he was not stopped. We don't know if this is his first victim, because when you do the statistical research, you find out that by the time someone is caught, the chances of that being their first victim is actually quite slim. They have victimized other people throughout the years. He wasn't even 30 years old yet. He's only 28 years old. So he may have had other victims throughout the years. We just don't know. But we know for sure of this case, He's convicted of this. He's off to jail now for 7.5 years. But the officer said, listen, there's no doubt in his mind that he would have continued to assault this child if this child hadn't come forward, and other children would have also been at risk. And that's incredibly unfortunate, I think, because it's just disgusting. Think of the victim. So a lot of you are trying to make light of the situation, but honestly, this young lady's life has been damaged beyond repair. She can get counseling and she can become functional in this community. I'm not saying that in her community, in society, but you never heal from this. And I've spoken to enough victims to know that the impact that it has is tremendous. A lot of victims go on to have psychological, emotional issues. Some of them self-harm. There's a lot that comes out as a result of this. Some become drug abusers and that sort of thing because they're trying to cope. And their coping mechanisms we may not always understand. A large percentage actually of people who are sexually molested, they themselves become perpetrators because, again, of the damage that is created. So I see on IG the usual ridiculous comments coming in. I'm just trying to see if there's anyone here who makes a meaningful comment that we can share with you. It doesn't look like there's any, so let me go over to our Facebook audience. Nathan says, Charlene, says that true Christians don't do this. They come in wolf's clothing. And Leslie confirms that she also believes that no one should be trusted. Charlene says he had an incredibly bright future, but of course he has now thrown that away. And that was his choice. That was his decision. You guys know I'm not sympathetic to people who make really poor decisions about their lives. But when you make a decision that's actually going to ruin someone else's life, that's pretty messed up. And that is exactly, apologies, what he has done in this situation. So, whatever a person's out there trying to defend him and defend his behavior, I'm going to tell you straight up, I don't personally care. He has admitted to it. The evidence was strong enough. He's gone to jail for 7.5 years. We know he's not going to serve that full 7.5 years, which is unfortunate. He will serve a portion of that. If he ever comes back to the Cayman Islands, every person in this community, this is why we need a sex offenders registry, should know exactly who he is and the fact that he has done this to a child. And so at the end of the day, he will do it again. I mean, if presented with the opportunity. So Coco Caramel on IG said, well said, Sandra. This is a very serious topic that usually isn't taken seriously until it hits home. And it's unfortunate because, it's not even about it hitting home sometimes, because when it does hit home, a lot of people want to ignore it because they are so concerned about protecting their own reputation. They will just throw the victim to the wolves, which is really, really alarming and really, really concerning. Another comment here on IG said the man is a pedo, that bastard. He should be out at Batiman next. He's going to come out. Well, I mean, I don't know about that, but at the end of the day, it's sad. Yeah, Rachel's asking people to mature up. And then, this IG crowd. We're probably going to find a way to block the IG comments, to be honest, when we go live, because it's really a waste of time to have all these comments that are just absolutely ridiculous. But like I said, we're going to move forward in terms of really focusing on the topic here. And I think I'm going to definitely find out how to just lock the comments down, because I know that a lot of you do want to focus on the discussion and are really not up for the ridiculous comments that people are finding funny. So one comment says, what I hate is then people always never getting enough punishment And I think you're absolutely right. Again, even this particular 7.5 years for the rape of a child, that should be a life sentence. Honestly, it should be a life sentence because you've taken a life, you've destroyed a life. So in my opinion, you should equally be willing to give yours up now that you've done that. So Stephanie is in agreement with what we've said thus far on the program. And again, we will keep an eye on this young man when he returns to the Cayman Islands, which in all likelihood the UK will deport him. Although I don't know how this works. I mean, this is a very interesting question because he has a UK passport. So when a Caymanian traveling on a UK passport goes overseas now and commits an offense, because we are UK citizens, do they have the right to export us back home? I know that's not the correct word that I'm looking for. So Paul says, is there a reason why Cayman does not have a sex offenders registry? Why are we the country that always has to wait and see before we act and do something? Why can't we be leaders in the right things first? Paul, I have been saying that now for the better of at least 10 years. We started a petition, we've submitted it to the government, and they have never sought to do anything about it. Not just this government, but subsequent governments, PPM, UDP, this hybrid government that they now have. They have never, ever prioritized putting together a sex offenders registry to protect our children. And I think you're absolutely right. We take this reactive approach. We would rather be reactive with situations like this as opposed to proactively trying to do something about it. And it is incredibly unfortunate that that's the case. So, Paul, thank you so much for your comments. Someone says here on IG, imagine how the man parents feel about him. And this is the issue I think that a lot of people have, and I mean it's unfortunate because he's still somebody's child. And I'm sure his parents must care about him. I guess they still love him. They're, I'm sure, incredibly disappointed. But at the end of the day, their love for him, does that change? I mean, I don't know. I don't know how a parent would feel about that. There's this thing in Christianity that we supposedly love the person and hate the sin. But how do you separate the sin from the sinner? That person is the one who's committing the act. They have made those decisions very consciously. And so what can you do? I don't know. It's a tough situation. I feel for his family, but I do believe that unfortunately, it is what it is. And yeah, he's made a huge poor judgment here. All right, let's move on to some other news. We've got about 20 minutes left in the program. This young man had so much going for him. He ran track. He, was working on this pilot thing. It's just incredibly sad. So in other news, this morning, Lavelle was back at it on the Linford Pearson Highway. And by now, she's got to be a household name. You guys, I'm sure, are aware of who she is. Last week, Monday, she started protesting on the Linford Pearson Highway. She apparently has chosen this location because she lives in Randite Gardens. So she does live in that area. And we see now that she had multiple signs this morning. One said that Dr. Lockhart tried to kill her mother. And then another one said that Dr. Lockhart tried to kill her. But I don't really know if those signs are both about her. I'm pretty sure they're both written by her. It's the same handwriting. So she has put multiple tires, tree branches, limbs, everything in the roadway. So last week Monday, you guys recall that the morning traffic was a real cluster. You know what? Part of the reason was there was an accident. Another part of the reason was this lady was actually blocking the road. So she was out yesterday. We alerted the community that she was out yesterday. We alerted certain individuals to make sure that the police were informed so that they could be out there to ensure that she was actually not blocking the actual road itself. So there were multiple police officers at the location this morning, ensuring that she wasn't physically in the road. One person indicated that apparently yesterday she almost caused an accident with her antics. And so she returned this morning, dragged her signs out there from, again, her residence in Windsor Park. Her residence in Brandite Garden, which is right across the street from this. And she set up shop again with her old tires, tree branches, the works. And she was out there this morning until about 9:15. So a lot of persons are questioning her mental health. Why is she protesting? What is she doing this for? What's the real issue here? And we don't know. We're not professional psychiatrists. So, someone said that her sign said she's in need of justice. We all need justice, but I don't know precisely what her type of justice is. But what we do know is the 10,000 plus people who come in from the east every single morning, who have to put up with getting up at the brink of dawn to be able to get to work 2 hours later on time. We need justice. We need justice to be able to try to traverse traffic and not be interrupted with anything outside of the norm. So her rights to justice versus 10,000 plus people, who are you going to choose? And the bottom line is, Lovell, we have to choose the common good of the community. So if you feel like you need justice, protesting in the middle of the street in the manner in which you've chosen is probably not the most effective way to do it. What you're getting is a lot of people who are not pleased with your situation and the fact that you're causing a disruption in the traffic flow. You're pulling debris and polluting and littering our environment. Keep in mind that the Linford-Pearson Highway is a well-traveled intersection. It's a well-traveled highway. Thousands of people use it every single day. And sadly, thousands of people saw that mess of a situation over the last couple of days that you've been doing this. Now, here's the most interesting part is our sources indicate Lavelle, who's originally from Jamaica, when she goes to Jamaica, Lavelle doesn't seem to have any mental health issues when she's in Jamaica. So I don't know what it is about Jamaica that allows her mental health issues to clear up, or what it is about Cayman that allows them to manifest. But it seems like her environment plays a critical role in her fluidness of what's going on in her head. So a lot of people said, listen, if she does better in Jamaica, if she doesn't have these outbursts and these issues in Jamaica, why not try to encourage her to maybe return to Jamaica? And that might assist in clearing up, whatever issues that she has. If it's, someone said maybe it's the ganja that's smoking there. I don't know if she smokes ganja or not, but if she returns to the Cayman Islands and the second she gets off the plane, people said she heads straight to NAU, then it's a whole dance and song routine, that she has mental health issues, she needs the government to take care of her, she can't work, she can't do this, she can't do that. What then is a long-term solution for getting her the help that she needs? So it's something that really, I think, needs to be looked at carefully. And the police have said that they're examining the situation to try to make a determination of what they're going to do. This morning, we know that the debris was there. I spoke to police officers on the scene. They indicated that they would be contacting the NRA to clean up the mess that she had created with all these old tires. There was an old chair. I mean, it was just a royal mess. They said, oh yeah, the NRA is going to clean it up. Well, I can tell you by about 4 o'clock this evening, the NRA had not cleaned this mess up. And instead of cleaning it up, it was still there, being an eyesore. Most people who come from the airport, so visitors, tourists on this island, take the Linford Pearson Highway, especially if they're living at Moritz, or they're going to Pedro Castle. You know, they're out and about, and they see this mess on our highway, on a major highway. And boy, did it look really, really horrible. So I want to give a shout out to Bradley Jackson. Bradley's actually a pilot. So a lot of you guys may know Bradley. I want to just give him a shout out and a big thanks for cleaning up this mess. Bradley took his truck, his personal truck, and he put all of this stuff on his truck, all the tires, the chair, the branches, whatever. And Bradley demonstrated today what K-Mankind is all about. He cleaned up that mess. The government didn't do it. NRA, for whatever reason, didn't get out there and get this done. It was a private citizen that did this with his own private vehicle, took the load to the dump, and actually unloaded it. So again, big thank you to Bradley for doing that and for taking the time to try to make our island look a little bit better than it did. Now, the Cayman Islands government is going to pay out millions of dollars here shortly over the coming weeks going into the holidays to workers to go around and cleaning up. And this is something that we mentioned earlier in a Facebook, and I think an IG post as well. There's some areas that need more help than others. So I am really, really hopeful that the Cayman Islands government and the NICE program will focus heavily on the Randite Gardens area. Because you know where Laval got all this debris from? Right there in Randite Gardens. So on either side of the intersection, there's a lot of debris that's catching, now that the highway's gone in. One of the residents, as we were out on site this morning, one of the residents on what would be like the back end of Crew Road was complaining that since this highway has gone in, people are just throwing their garbage there where the railings are, and no one is coming to clean it up. And they had, complained about it. They had asked the NRA to come out, and the NRA people just came out and basically cut down the hedging that the government had planted there, but they didn't pick up all of the garbage and debris that's in between the hedging. So it was really easy for Laval, apparently, to find all these old tires, an old broken down chair and whatever, because she pulled them from right out of her community. And if you go down in the Randite Gardens area, which again we did this morning, we saw a number of really unsightly residents with garbage, not even in bags or the garbage bin, but literally just thrown into like a little pile on the street. I'm gonna just bring up this picture so that you guys can see this. And there was a time in the Cayman Islands when our people really took a lot of pride in how their homes looked, how their yards looked, especially around the holidays. We were always ones to want to clean up our yard. We raked our yard. We, did things like ensure that debris was taken away. And this is it looks a little upside down here, but this is just one area. Again, this is a massive house there in Randite Gardens, and this is where everybody's just throwing, as you can see, there's all sorts of stuff in here. This causes roaches, rats, God knows what else to, fester in the area. And there's a lot of homes in there that look like they could do with a nice coat of paint. Even just a little painting sometimes can spruce up a building and make a building look so much better. So I am really hoping that the Cayman Islands government, through the NICE program, will not just pay people to do the public roadways, but go into some specific neighborhoods, go into some specific areas. Maybe some of these people are elderly and they can't do it themselves. Offer some assistance with sprucing up some of these neighborhoods. Get some houses painted. If they can't afford to cut their lawns, hire someone or get the nice workers, because they're not volunteers, they're getting paid. Have them go in and provide some much needed assistance to the residents in the Randite Gardens area. And I'm not trying to pick on Randite Gardens, because I think that there are a number of different areas that could really use this kind of help. But I saw Granite Gardens with my eyes this morning. It was kind of sad to see what that section overall really, really looks like. There's one or two homes in there that people are really trying to keep up, but when your neighbors don't give a shit, I mean, the whole neighborhood goes to hell in a handbasket, right? So Charlene says, thank you, Bradley. Very obvious that you have pride in the way your home reflects our Caymanians. So again, Bradley Jackson, he is a pilot with Cayman Airways, went and cleaned up this mess on his own volition. Nobody asked him to do it. So we really appreciate that. Bradley, thank you so much. So someone commented on our camera quality interface. I can assure you that it's not the camera quality. We're using a Canon 80D that has very good quality. The issue that you're seeing, it's called local internet, because in order for you to see this stream, it has to be uploaded to the internet. And you know there's something called download speed and upload speed. I don't want to get too technical on you guys, but the upload speed, generally speaking, the Cayman Islands sucks, especially if you're with Flow. And we have Flow at the moment because we have no other choice. So anyway, that's the best that we can really do. So Travaz says, I feel really bad. I'm trying to listen. I just can't keep up the good work though. Internet is shit. Yes, trust me. That's exactly what the issue is. We're praying for fiber soon, but only God knows. All right, folks. So again, big shout out to Bradley. Beulah says that, Paul, my apologies. Paul says that there's, this is going to sound mean, but on most status grants, which have been given out, there's a section of the status grant that if your mental state deteriorates, even after you've been granted status, then that status grant can be revoked. Not saying that this is the case here, but if she's sponging off of NAU, then something has to be done to sort out this issue with her. And that's a very valid point, Paul. And in fact, today, I was inquiring of the police, whether or not they are prepared to, we're supposed to be spending millions of dollars now in a mental health facility. But the truth of the matter is most of the people who need that facility, will not go there voluntarily. So if a person with mental health issues sits down and says, that someone is trying to kill them because that psychiatrist, psychologist has said that they have mental health issues, what will prevent or compel them to even go into a facility? There is a section of the mental health law that does apologies. There is a section of the mental health law that does permit the authorities to force someone into care. I do believe that it's used as a last resort, but Paul, I understand your sentiments. In a lot of other places around the world, a person can lose their residency, their status for that and other issues. So I think that she is becoming a bit of a menace in society. If you talk to people who know her, they will tell you that she's been doing a lot of things over the years. She goes into businesses like Cayman Airways, Hurley's Media, and she threatens staff and does all sorts of crazy antics. But, my question is, how mentally challenged is Lovell when her antics are so incredibly timed? Like, she knows morning traffic. She's going to be out there during her strategic time at 9:15, just as morning traffic starts to deteriorate on the Linford Pearson Highway. She packs up her stuff and she goes back home. So, she goes to Jamaica, her sanity comes back. She comes to Cayman, she starts acting out and having issues again. So, I know that depending on the nature of the mental illness, there are mental illnesses that have periods of time. For example, if you're bipolar, you might go through like a manic stage, a depressive stage, and stuff, but they're not quite so conveniently timed. So it's not a situation where, at 9:15 you get your sanity back, to pack up your signage, you go home, you can put on your wig, you can look good, you can do all these kind of things. It's like, what's really going on here? So there are some questions about that. Beulah says that she should be made to pick up the debris herself, and a lot of people have shared this sentiment, that they should make her clean it up, because littering, which is what she has done, is an offense in and of itself. And I think, maybe they need to try to see about enforcing the law. Just because you have a mental health issue doesn't mean that you get to break the laws of this country without any repercussions. And as we have seen in the past, and Charlene agrees that she should be made to clean it up, as we have seen in the past, a lot of times the only way to get persons help is to get them before a judge, where they use that excuse or that reasoning for why they've committed a crime, and then the judge says, right, part of your treatment, part of your sentencing is you must go to counseling, you must do this. So they will implement certain orders of the court that then have to be followed. And maybe that is precisely what Lovell needs. Some psychiatric medication, counseling, something. Brad says thanks very much, and he has Logic, so he gets 100 megabytes upload speed. Brad, we wish that we had Logic in this area, but I can assure you the second they are available, I am so done with Flow. You have no idea. It's gonna be sayonara. Oh, it is frustrating. Natasha, she says that she needs a CMR mug. We will be giving these away, Natasha, and we have in the past, so stay tuned about how to get yours. We'd love to get one to you. Ari says that they need to give out a big black garbage bag for Christmas for those nasty, inconsiderate people. The garbage truck guys will not pick up pizza boxes and Foster's bags, so it gets left behind. Clean up, Cayman. Thank you, Ari, for that. It's unfortunate, our island is beautiful, but at the same time, let's try to keep it that way.